Trump just met with Zelenskyy at Mar-a-Lago, hosting state visits now at his resort. I'm sure charging those Ukrainian officials quite a hefty bit to stay at his property, as we've seen him do previously to make himself money. But that's not the point of this segment. And in very Putin fashion, every time Zelenskyy and Trump are about to meet, he'll do something particularly horrific, as if to say, I don't really want peace. Then despite that, Trump will come out and state that Putin does want peace, even though, once again, a barrage of attacks, massive attacks against Ukraine and Kyiv took place right before Trump's meeting with Zelenskyy. He's now done this multiple times, not a coincidence, seemingly sending a message. And then also this video, I saw this headline, Russia drops menacing AI video ahead of Mar-a-Lago showdown. This was one of their embassies right before the meeting posting this.
Not war, just peace, forever, forever, forever.
So that's Maduro. So then it shows Zelenskyy being put in jail. And you saw the US dollar breaking into a bunch of pieces. So that's what one of the Russian embassies was up to. I just explained what the Russian military was up to. Again, it's just disturbing stuff. And also, I'm really sick of world affairs being treated with AI cartoons and a lighthearted energy that feels gross. But then Trump posted this before his meeting. He always has to call Putin right before the meeting and just check in on things. I just had a good and very productive telephone call, Trump wrote, with President Putin of Russia prior to my meeting at 1 p.m. today with President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. The meeting will take place in the main dining room of Mar-a-Lago. Press is invited. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So obviously nothing productive happened on it because he didn't name anything. And he says that after every call he has, and then nothing actually is accomplished. So now we get to when Zelenskyy arrived at Mar-a-Lago. While you watch this, if you appreciate this show, please do click the subscribe button and support the work that we do. It is completely free. All you have to do is click. And if you're watching like on the TV, maybe you whip out your phone, search up Luke Beasley, subscribe. Just make it happen is all I'm asking. Helps us get the word out about what we do.
Hello, Mr. President. How are you doing?
President, do you think Putin is serious about peace this time?
I do. I think he is. I think they both are.
Just remember, not that this needs to be said, I feel like I'm living Groundhog Day over and over and over, or whatever. Is that the... yeah. I'm the groundhog or something. And is that... who is the groundhog in that metaphor? And I still have to repeat it, though. Trump said he was going to end this war in 24 hours. If it were true that Trump understood Putin, why would he have been so wrong about that? Clearly, Putin's not serious about peace. And that's shown by the strikes we just saw, which a reporter asked about.
President Trump, some are saying that the recent attacks in the past couple days that Russia's staged against Ukraine shows that President Putin isn't serious about peace. What is your reaction to that?
No, he's very serious. I think, I can say that I believe Ukraine has made some very strong attacks also. And I don't say that negatively. I think you probably have to. I don't say that negatively. But I think, and he hasn't told me that, but there have been some explosions in various parts of Russia, and it looks to me like, I don't know, I don't think it came from the Congo. I don't think it came from the United States of America. It possibly came from Ukraine, but I haven't asked that question. Maybe I won't bother asking. No, they're fighting a war.
So I know we're all really fatigued with this, but it is just so infuriating. It is disturbing. It is a betrayal of what our values should be, that every single time Trump gets asked a question about Russia's interest in peace, he somehow finds a way to flip it around on Ukraine and go, well, they did strikes. No. But what prompted the war? What could stop the war? Because they're asking about something Russia doesn't have to do. They don't have to keep doing these huge, deadly strikes and further invasions. They could just stop, proving they're not interested in peace, because they could just stop and then we would have peace. Ukraine, in self-defense, will have to do all sorts of strikes of their own to try to push back Russia or hurt their oil refineries, which is probably what Trump's referring to. That's not a both sides issue. That's them trying to engage in a war to defend themselves as Russia actually continues the war, makes it even necessary for Ukraine to defend themselves at all. Then Trump didn't like one of the questions a reporter asked.
You know what my deadline is? Getting the war ended. We don't have deadlines. Do you agree with that? Well, it depends what the security agreement says. What a dumb question. Nobody even knows what the security agreement is going to say. But there will be a security agreement. It'll be a strong agreement. And the European nations are very much involved in that. They'll be very much involved.
Okay, so you can take that down. I guess Trump it was hard to hear the reporter, but it sounded like the reporter was asking about security guarantees, and then Trump says, what a dumb question. There isn't a security agreement yet. And it's like, yeah, right, but would that be a part of one? Because that's going to be a big deal. Is the United States going to back up these security guarantees? Are there going to be NATO-type protections that if Russia were to further invade after a peace agreement, that it would be like attacking NATO? Or is it just going to be, we'll do a peace agreement and then kind of see what happens after that? And then you have this clip once they sat down at their table.
Are you okay? Is everyone fine? Margot, if you would, I think you could sit outside and have some food. Would you like to have food, or do you consider that a bribe? And therefore you cannot write honestly, or therefore you have to write a bad story. Okay, because if you'd like, would you like something to eat at this time? Yes or no? You can speak.
Yes, sir.
Yes? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Margot,
Yes, sir.
take them outside, tell the chef, serve them a little lunch, okay?
Thank you, press.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
That should
Please leave the way
guarantee
you
good
came.
stories,
Thank
but
you,
it
press.
won't.
Speak, piggy. Something about that was weird. You can speak. All right, now, on this topic, I started today's show with something that is a small issue that makes me want to rip all of my hair out, which will be a lot of... No. But now we need to talk about something that's on an important subject that also makes me want to rip all my hair out, which is Tucker Carlson saying, I think the reason that, which is true, by the way, people hate Russia and say that I'm paid by Russia, and that I'm a racist, is because Russia's white and they hate white people. That's his argument, okay? Now, I'm about to blow your mind. Tucker, please watch this. You never responded to my challenge of how you talk all tough about Ukraine and about Russia. Now, actually, Putin's a much better leader for Russia than Biden was for the United States, and Putin's a better man, despite massacring hundreds of thousands of people. And all that, and I said, okay, let's go back. Or I'll go back, you go for the first time, to the war zone and see if you really believe that. If you really believe Putin's such a great leader, see what he's doing to people. Never took me up on that offer. Now I'll give him a simpler offer. Try to use your ears after I play this clip and see if you can process what I say, okay? Because it'll help you out.
My main instinct is that the lesson of World War II for some people was white Christian countries are a threat to the world.
100% post-war consensus, yes.
And that's just not a fact, actually, at all. It's why they hate Russia. Yeah. It's probably going to be the only majority white Christian country in the world soon. And they hate it. That is why they hate it, by the way. Let's just stop lying about it. That's why they hate it.
Okay. So, even if what he was saying were true in terms of the demographics, it would still be a silly point, and especially silly with his inability to substantiate it beyond just kind of nice, provocative sentences like that one. And if you add the layer of context of him doing the World War II revisionism that we've seen for a while, then it gets real obvious what his goal is here. And we'll circle back in a second. There's this whole new genre of people going, we should make Hitler and the Nazis less stigmatized. There's just so much stigma. It's like you can't even be a Nazi anymore. And we should do that not because we like Hitler, but because by normalizing him, we let white people feel okay about being white. Like, that's really, I'm about to show you, I actually pull this up, but I'm going to show you not even the most far-right streamer trying to articulate that point, that it's really about allowing white people, not in like a racist way, but just allowing them to be okay with who they are, right? Now they're saying, be okay with who you are when it comes to white people. Unlike the gay people, not so much, but on white. So, we'll circle back to that. But first, he says the reason why they hate, we don't know who they is, but they hate us, presumably, Russia, is not because they're trying to take over another sovereign country and mass killing people and then torturing them. But, or not even because they structure their country in a way that doesn't stand for the principles of freedom and liberty and free speech and free expression and democracy that we're supposed to stand for. Not even that. He says, no, the reason people hate, which is not about hating Russia, but hating the Russian government, is because they're white and Christian. And that's the goal here, is to destroy the whites, which is a very stretchy definitional label, by the way, when you try to dive into these demographic discussions. A lot of times a lot more complicated than he would think, but okay. And Christian. So, let me pose this to you, Tucker. This was just a quick ChatGPT prompt, so it could be a little bit off, but to give you the gist, Russia is 80% white. Okay, so you're right, very white. And 65 to 75% Christian. The country they're invading is 95% white and 85 to 90% Christian. So, Ukraine is more white and Christian than Russia. How could it be that defenders of Ukraine would hate Russia then for being white and Christian? I tried to put that very simply. Did you get it? One more time. Ukraine is more white and Christian, but supposedly being against Russia's invasion and thus not liking Russia's government for that invasion is because the powers that be want to diminish white and Christian people. What are we supposed to do with people who say things so ridiculous like that? It's not just wrong in the broad way. It's not just wrong in the dog whistly way. But even if we dove right into his gross hot tub of ideology, can you imagine being in a hot tub with that guy? Ugh. I just thought of it because I was trying to think of like dive into what are we diving into, and I just pictured him and he like takes his robe off and he gets in and he's like, I like the jets on my butt. Oh, sorry. It feels funny. These jets must be a conspiracy theory to make me want sodomy. They're trying to make us gay with the hot tubs. Now I'm doing Trump's voice. That was weird. But even if we dove into that hot tub with him and fully assumed his premise, that those demographics would be the determining factor of why people oppose the Russian authoritarian invasionist ideology, then it still wouldn't make any sense because of the demographics of Ukraine. Insane. Okay, but you hear how he goes, really the reason the whole thing about World War II is really getting people to have the takeaway that they shouldn't like white Christian nations. And this echoes something I saw the streamer Asmongold. Okay, now picture being in a hot tub with Tucker and Asmongold. That's gonna get nasty. They're the type of people, both of them strike me as the type of people who say to their significant other, the significant other's like, have you taken a shower in a week? And they're like, I've gotten in the hot tub like 3 times this week. I'm plenty clean. Okay, sorry. So, Asmongold, who's a right-wing streamer, explains it to us basic people. What's really happening with this Hitler support.
There have been roadblocks put up in their lives that they don't think that they deserve to have, and they're angry about it, and they don't want to say sorry. They don't want to say sorry. I don't like the idea that I'm being replaced or somebody who's a woman is getting an advantage over me anymore. And I think that whenever those people, and by the way,
I know what he's saying, but it sounded so funny. I'm so tired of the woman being on top.
Who's a woman is getting an advantage over me anymore. And I think that whenever those people, and by the way, that's the reason why, see, like a lot of people don't understand this because they don't really get the psychology behind it.
Hit it.
I at least think that I do. The main reason why people like Nick Fuentes are trying to normalize and make Hitler like an acceptable figure to like make jokes about and say positive things about is because if you can break that stigma, you can effectively unlock a massive identity movement for white people. That's the reason.
Okay, I'm only laughing because this is insane and scary, but that's all we can do. I'll pick up where we left off. We'll go a little back. Okay. But do you hear what's leaving your mouth? I understand what he's trying. I don't agree, but I can assume what it is that he thinks he's saying, which is that our understanding of history and Hitler has made white people feel like being too proud of their identity creeps too close to Nazism. That's kind of, I think, what he's trying to say. And thus, we have a guilt for being white because we saw how white identity was weaponized to mass kill people. I think that's what he's trying to say. But what actually came out of his mouth was if we allow people to not be stigmatized for saying positive things about Hitler, then we can unlock a movement of white identity. Hey, sounds Hitler-y. So yeah, exactly, Asmongold. That's why there's the stigma, is so we don't unlock a white identity pro-Hitler movement. That's, yep, that's what the stigma's for. And it's not about white. It's about weaponizing racial identity and othering, and then dehumanizing through that othering to justify killing people. Based on, in many cases, an arbitrary definition of a movement's identity that has changed a bunch of times. Yeah, that's what the stigma is for, to make sure that thing, it doesn't have to be white people doing it, but that type of racial demagoguing is disincentivized socially.
For white people. That's the reason why they're doing it. And so as soon as you
wait, let's hear that sentence again, because he thinks this is a mic drop moment.
Or like an acceptable figure to like make jokes about and say positive things about, is because if you can break that stigma, you can effectively unlock a massive identity movement for white people. That's the reason why they're doing it. And so as soon as you understand that, and you can see also, by the way, the reason how you can prove that that's the case is you look at the way that different races of people see, they see Hitler, right? Like for white people, there's like a much like a 2 to 3x higher amount of people that are like very openly against Hitler. But with other minority groups, they don't really care about it as much. That is their main. That is their. Jesus, I don't want to say final solution, right? But like that is their goal with why they're doing that.
We could spend a year on this clip just analyzing what he just said there, because there's so much. The unlock a white identity. I keep forgetting. What did he say? Unlock a white identity. Was it movement or something like that? Which sounds, when you just mentioned why they're praising Hitler, a little scary. Then he says the real goal there. I can't even. One of his points is that minorities don't dislike Hitler as much as white people dislike Hitler. I never noticed that. I can think of one minority group that really is open about their disliking of Hitler for good reason. And from my, you know how MAGA does this fake nostalgia in some cases of like, if we could go back before all this mass migration, look at what America was, and they'll show footage of, look at New York City and people walking with their big briefcases and their big coats, and they're all white. They're all good looking, and they're walking around, and they're beautiful couples, and it was all great before migration. And you can fact check with different empirical things where they're misleading on that, but that's like this nostalgia they try to hearken back to or bring people to. And one thing I just recently saw was a photo of people of different racial groups and a guy with a swastika and a bunch of people responding. Did you see this? Like, this is what life was like before Obama. Message is supposed to be Obama racialized everything. Before Obama, Nazis would be hanging out with black people, who would be hanging out with Jewish people, who would be hanging out with everyone would just be hanging out, and everything was fine until Obama came and was like, I'm black. And everything became racial because of him. Is kind of the argument they're going off of. And I think that's ridiculous. I actually know empirically that's not true. But I have a nostalgia. I remember growing up in a time that had beautiful bliss. Not on every issue, but on where people stood on Hitler. I remember being with people of all different racial groups and everyone being like, Hitler's not good. That's the nostalgia I have. Where did that go? Now he's trying to do this like, you're probably not smart enough to understand what I'm going to say here. But the reason Fuentes is saying he likes Hitler, and a lot of people are posting, yeah, that's awesome, is because not because he actually supports what Hitler did, but because he's trying to unlock pride for white people, which for some reason, liking Hitler is important for that. No. I don't want to be dishonest to what he's trying to say. What he's trying to say is the guilt that Hitler caused. But why? I never had any guilt as a white person for what Hitler did. I didn't do it. All that served as an example of was why, as I just explained to you, that type of politics and dehumanization and othering is so dangerous. So my takeaway was not that I should hate myself for being white, but just making sure we opposed racist ideologies like that going forward. And it served as a good little tidbit for why I could never allow myself to be radicalized on identity lines like that into believing other people were less than. That's a great lesson to learn from history. Through a horrific tragedy, what is a positive takeaway someone could have? That. But they all act like they grew up feeling all this guilt or not being able to. I don't know why they feel the need to be like, I want to be able to shout, yes, I love that I'm white. It's like, that's what that I never got the urge to do. I'm like, hey, this is me. This is it. This is me. And that's not something I had any control over. Now let's do a bunch of good things that I do have control over. And that's what I'm going to feel proud over. But so many of these commentators act like it's just obvious that when you learned history throughout school, you were made to feel like you personally were bad for what happened, which I think that's the low intelligence take. That's never how I interpreted it. And the fact that you did makes me concerned about what exactly you were associating with. Because that's how it sounds in the actual way of, if we just listen to what you said, that's how it really sounds. Is you feel like somehow stigmatizing Nazism stigmatizes you. Weird. I'm not saying you're Nazi, anyone who thinks that what he said, but do you see what I'm saying? It's a little weird. It's a little weird that you feel the way to have your own identity or to feel okay with your own identity is to praise Hitler. Yeah, that's going to get you called a Nazi. Even if I won't do it, that'll get you called a Nazi. All right, I think we got that one all situated.